FZ07 bullshit on series. I'm gonna turn a wrench. This makes me customize it.
Today's video, we're gonna tune the bike like some Fast and the Furious style with the laptop. I know you guys want to see me do exhaust and I got some intake stuff, but first things first, before you do these other mods, you need to get your tuning set up on these bikes. They come lean from the factory. That means they don't really have quite enough fuel. That's actually a dangerous condition. The simple way to explain it is almost like your engine's a giant air pump. You got intake, you got exhaust, and this is pulling air through it. And when you increase the flow of these, you get more air into the cylinder, which means you make more power if you add more fuel. If you don't, you might not even make any more power, but more importantly, it's kind of dangerous for the engine, and that's where tuning really comes in. It's very important. A lot of people assume these new bikes with O2 sensors will just tune themselves. Not really, yes and no, not the way you think they do. But I'm gonna show you what I think is the best system out there for tuning the bike. So this is the FlashTune ECU kit. This kit right here absolutely crushes things like a Power Commander and a Bezazzle and all those other ones. What's it, Bezazzle? Brazzle? I don't fucking know. It sounds like that porn website. This is going to be easier to install and give way more tunability than any of those other kits out there. The heart of the kit is basically these two cables right here. As far as installation goes, this should be really simple. If you've ever seen how like a Power Commander 5 is installed, you really got to dig into the bike. You got to go into the injectors and the spark plug wires, and you got to sort of wide connect into everything. You end up with a lot more mess of wires under the bike. I know as a mechanic when I used to work on people's bikes, if I got in there and the Power Commander was in the way and I had to remove it, they're going to get a call and they're going to get charged more money. Because pretty much they don't make it simply to disconnect in certain places. Usually the whole thing has to be half pulled off and half put back on. Some bikes you have to remove the air box, secondary fuel lines, and things like that. It gets real hairy real fast with those things. This is so much simpler in comparison, and it's going to be so much cleaner. This literally will just connect into the factory wiring harness right where it plugs into the factory ECU, and it will allow us to reflash the ECU right there. Not only is that simpler, but it's also just a lot more reliable than these piggyback ECUs and how they work. These piggyback ECUs, like a Power Commander, have a lot of limitations anyway, especially with newer bikes. Most of these newer O2 sensored bikes have what's called closed loop and open loop systems, and that means that the Power Commander actually at certain times can't actually control the bike the way it's trying to. It's kind of weird, it gets complicated. The point is that it's limited big time. The factory ECU on this bike has got a handful of restrictions, like I believe first, second, and third gear has timing pulled on it, and then your Power Commanders and stuff can't always affect that. I believe that there's a earlier rev limiter in 6th gear to act as a top speed limiter. Power Commanders and other tuners can't really affect that. This can. There's a lot more control you have with this system, and it's just cleaner and simpler. There's less things to go wrong. When you have one of these piggyback ECUs and wires going everywhere, you don't have to be a mechanic to understand that makes things a little less reliable. It's just a little bit more prone to being finicky, where when you flash the stock ECU, that's on the stock ECU. More tunability, simpler, it's actually cheaper than a Power Commander, and it'll let us use Power Commander and Bezazzle, whatever maps. We can actually import those in. Since they do have a big database, and what's really cool about that is they'll actually put it on the base map. And just trust me, that's a better way for it to be. That means, despite whether the bike's in a closed loop or open loop system, at the time, depending on your RPM throttle, it's all goofy. But despite all that, if we change the base map at the base of it, then we don't have to worry about a weird condition where the bike suddenly is going back to some stock setting and we've got exhaust and intake and it starts running really lean and it's bad. Just trust me, this is going to be a way better system. You probably will see services out there that will reflash your ECU for you. You can go with that if you want, but if you're gonna make changes later, if you maybe they didn't put a map on there that's not quite right, you're gonna have to take it back off and send it to them. And it's like gonna take probably a week to send it out, send it back. You're gonna have to kind of do the same amount of work. You're gonna have to get to the ECU regardless. I'd say spend a few more bucks, get this kit, and be able to tune it yourself. You know, that way you can change and try different maps that are available out there and you can see what works best for you. Right now, all we gotta do is pull off the side panel on the other side and we should be able to hook this up. Take a 5mm and remove the seat. The plastic pin right here. This is how it'll look in the bike. You press it and it pulls out. When you want to put this back in, you start it like this, push it back into the bike, and then press it and it'll lock back into place. There's 3 kind of pop rubber pieces now that are connecting this across here. We'll need to gently pry on this. Don't pull on this hard. And now to get this off the top here, you have to sort of push on this and pull on the top. If you're pulling on it super hard, you're doing it wrong. There it goes. Always about pushing down right there seems to help. Just that you already have a place set up to put these when you take them off. At this point, we've exposed the ECU. Remove the rubber band strap thingy over here, and then we'll pick up our ECU like this. What we want to do is we want to flip this hinge up right here. We'll have to push down on this tab right here, and then pops right off. You'll hear a little suction noise because this has got a water seal. Now go put this somewhere, not on the floor. This is important. If we grab the connector, we look at it, you can see these white sort of tabs that go around here. And we actually want to push those down. This will unlock the pins. To do that, you can just take a small screwdriver like this, gently push down on the top of these. These are now unlocked and I can slip new pins in there. This is the harness type 9 connector they give you that needs to go on the bike. They give you a couple pieces of shrink wrap. I've already kind of slipped a piece over the end here. I'm gonna go ahead and sort of get this into position because I don't think I'll be able to push this bigger end through the tighter spots I'm gonna want to get it into. So they give you a couple zip ties. I'm not gonna zip tie it right now. Like I said, I'm just gonna try to get in position. I think what I'm gonna have this do is sort of sit under the seat here. So that means I need to go ahead and run this wire up right here. This will keep it nice and out of the way of everything. Here's one of the small plugs here. I've pried it up a little so you can see it better. What you want to do is you want to very gently take a pick and pull these out. So I've removed one at 6, at 13. I have one more to remove at 17, 18, 19. Ha, got it. Looking into these, there's a small little kind of a tab piece that points up. That should go sort of upwards in the connector here. That's what helps lock it in. So we'll push this down as deep down as it'll go. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, wait, if you think this is difficult, go look up a video on how to install a power commander and you'll go, oh. We're gonna relock these pins now. Just gonna push this tab back up across the board, and the yellow, yep, now the yellow won't move, so that's good now. We need to connect this chassis ground. It says you can try to connect it to the battery if that's possible, but I don't think it's gonna reach. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use a multimeter to find a good chassis ground. This isn't too hard to do. A lot of people are worried about using a multimeter. This is not that hard. You can pick up a real simple, and it's like an $8 multimeter. I think they're even cheaper now. I've set mine in the DC range at 20. I'm gonna go ahead and stick the red onto the red side of the battery right here. Just tap it on there. And what we're looking for is to get 12 volts somewhere. There's a small bolt right here on the fairing. I'm gonna touch the black on there, and sure enough, I'm getting 12 volts. Okay, keep in mind this is a gas tank right here, so try to pull this away as far as you can. Now I'll take one of the supplied zip ties, and I'm gonna zip tie this cable we have here to the existing wiring harness. Alright, now we'll go ahead and plug our ECU back in. Make sure that the hammer is pulled up like this. Our pins have been relocked. Insert this nice and slowly here, and there we go. Just back where it belongs. My thinking is there's kind of a little spot for this to tuck into when the seat's on my connector. So with that like that, it should work out just fine. Now I've brought my computer over and I've got my harness connected up. I've actually already called the FT Tune guys and talked to them over the phone. I'm not sure what I'm doing with this at times. Just because I'm a mechanic doesn't mean I've had any experience with this whatsoever. So my point of that is to tell you, don't be afraid to call them. They've got great customer service. They're super helpful. Pull the cap off and connect to your bike. You'll have to register and do some initial stuff when you get it. It's not a big deal. First thing you want to do is you want to pull up your bike here. I actually went to the unrestricted ECU maps. This is what the guy told me to use if I wanted to have more tunability. It'll load that up. It says it's already open because I already have it open. Now this already pre-tunes a handful of things in here. Early ignition cuts and things like that. Disable ignition decel cut. When you click on it, you can choose true or false. So this kind of gets to be like some double negatives. It's a little confusing. So let's just think about it. It says ignition decel cut. That means when you let off the throttle, what this is it cuts the ignition, or at least it pulls the timing way back, and it gives this bike a lot of engine braking. A lot of people don't like that. So when you go into this, it says disable ignition decel cut, and it's going to be selected on true. I'm going to put it on false because personally I really like the engine braking this thing has. Under fan temperature, we have our low and our high. 7. I'm just going to basically make the fan kick on at earlier speeds. There's no reason for it not to run once this thing's thermostated at 180. it will not hurt it to run more. That's something on a lot of my bikes. I would change the fans to run off switch power. Now if we go here to PC fuel import, I can go to extract fuel table from, and I get to pick some things here. Now I've got some different maps that I've downloaded. These are Power Commander maps. So we'll click open and apply table to fuel map. It should take just a second here. It'll sort of convert it. Well, it didn't take much time at all. So what we'll now do is we go to device and we'll go to write ECU. We're gonna click that. It's gonna say checking ECU hard. So say key on. So what we need to do now is turn the key on. And then we'll click OK. Then it's gonna do something here for a minute. Should make us turn it on and off a couple times. Oh no, it's gonna go right into writing it. It must be because I already did that. The first time I had to turn it on off about, I think 3 or 4 times, and then perhaps now since I've done that, it already recognizes it. But now it's writing the ECU quite quickly. The first time it was very slow. It must be because we didn't make as many changes this time. I guess it already had a bunch of those changes in there. You hear that? Now it's making some noise. Write successfully, you may disconnect. And we'll put our cap back on. Tuck that down in there. Okay, now we can just close the software. We're done. Now I need to reinstall our side panel. The internet's going to tell you I'm crazy and this is going to melt the rubber, but it's not. That's not how WD-40 works. We're going to put just a dab of WD-40 on these little rubber pieces right here, just a very small amount. And what that'll do is it'll make it so that this fairing will pop on with the greatest of ease. And now we've got the ECU not only tuned, which is good if you're even just going to keep it stock, but now for any upgrades that we do down the road, we can easily plug back in. People always want to put exhaust on their bikes right away, and everyone's been screaming at me, put exhaust, but you've got to do this first. You have to understand that to keep your engine from being damaged, you really need to tune it properly. This is actually not hard work. Look, your hands aren't dirty. Now we can do all the fun stuff, and we just plug the computer in anytime we want to make changes. We'll have a link in the description, of course, to where you can get this kit for your bike. So next time we'll do intake and then exhaust. Turn it backwards. I'm thinking I might be able to pay attention to that and build in like that. And we slip one end in here. Here has done that. These OEM pieces just slot in there just perfectly. And the one coming down from the master cylinder stays on the outside. Goes on, that'll be just fine. We'll start with putting a crush washer in there. This will give us probably a minute to fix this.